Welcome to the Saturday edition of Anglican Unscripted. Actually, the day doesn't matter because we only record once a week. But I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today's May 21st, 2016.
Okay, there's lots of news to bring you. Probably three big stories that George are going to cover because there's been meetings and votes in the church, not just the Anglican Church. The Norwegian Lutherans got together and talked about gay marriage, and you're going to be totally freaked out by the result. The Methodists got together and talked about clergy and gay marriage at their general council, and they talked about abortion. You're going to be really freaked out by the result. And the Kenyans got together to elect a new archbishop. You're not going to be really freaked out by the result. Let's just talk a little bit about Kenya because it's been in the news a lot lately. The archbishop was going to retire this month, and they're going to hold an election for a new archbishop. But before all that happened, the Bishop of Nairobi, how do you pronounce his name?
Joel Waweru.
I'm not good with African names. I can barely do American names. I slaughter words like Anderson all the time. But Waweru really wanted to go to the ACC meeting in Lusaka. He knew the only way to do that was to forge the Archbishop's signature. So guess what he decided to do? He got an electronic copy of the signature, posted a letter from the Archbishop on the website, and said to ACC, "Oh, look, the Archbishop changed his mind about the ACC. I get to go. I'm bringing a couple delegates." And for his good deed, he was elected to an office within the ACC.
Yes, Bishop Waweru was elected to the ACC Standing Committee, and ACC Secretary General Josiah Odawa Farone appointed Rosemary Ngobo, one of Waweru's allies, to this Primates Task Force. And Odawa Farone basically put his whole credibility and prestige behind Waweru and said all these accusations of forgery passed out by scurrilous people are wrong. They're lies.
So now we move on to an election, George.
Well, the election came. Waweru was running. Waweru was one of several candidates from the Mount Kenya Central region, the Kikuyu tribe, which is the largest tribe, about 20+% of the country. Waweru, I believe, and this is solely my opinion, sought to become archbishop by taking out the king and showing people he was the power to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was more of he wanted to do a tribal fight than a church election.
Waweru wanted to take out Wabakula, show that he was the rightful leader of the largest power bloc, the Kikuyu, and then go in by rallying the Kikuyu and their traditional allies, playing upon tribal factionalism. That's how Kenyan politics work. It's tribe against tribe. That is how the church in the past has sometimes operated, tribal jealousies in politics. We see this across Africa. It's not unique to Kenya.
Well, there was a huge riot this week in Nairobi. I mean, we see violence all the time in many different parts of Kenya, and it's not like there was a buildup. It just breaks out.
And it's not like Waweru was a true believer in the gay cause. Rather, it's nice to have allies with money who will fund your ambitions.
Sure.
So the election comes, and, well, first off, Eliud Wabakula did not take Waweru's bait. He did not respond. He did not, bring Waweru up on charges for this or that. He just laid out the facts. And in an on-the-record interview, he laid out what happened and how it happened. And there's no question that Waweru caused to be uttered a fraudulent document.
Are you using law speak?
Yes, I am.
Wow.
Now, so the election was held on Friday at All Saints Cathedral. And if Waweru won, that would have meant GAFCON would have lost Kenya for all intents and purposes. Well, the election is held, and going in, some of us had favorites. There's one Bishop Ochale, who is 60 years old, and in the past he has given support before ACNA was formed, he provided oversight to Episcopal churches who broke away from the Episcopal Church. Well, he didn't get it, and because the retirement age is 65, he probably didn't have enough time. Well, after all the smoke is cleared and the votes are taken, Joel Jackson Ole Sapet, Bishop of Kericho in western Uganda, was elected. He's 52 years old, meaning he has 13 years to serve.
Oh, that's great.
He is a Maasai. As I said, it's only 2% of the population. So they did not play the tribal politics game. They played who was the best man for the church at this time. Now, some people who, in the run-up or in the immediate aftermath, the problem with Google is that it's Western-oriented. And if you do a search and don't actually know the players or circumstances, it's not going to tell you much of anything if you don't know how to look. So, Jackson, let's just stick with Jackson, it's easy to say.
All right. Bishop Jackson
has not been at the forefront of the political fights over homosexuality or this and that. That doesn't mean that he's not interested, but rather, in a very poor diocese, he is focused on development, evangelism, education, schools, converting the Maasai to Christianity. And he is just fine with what the GAFCON... In fact, he epitomizes the theological impetus of the GAFCON movement. He was in Jerusalem he was at the last Nairobi GAFCON meeting. Mm-hmm. He backs the Jerusalem Declaration. His theology of reform and renewal is absolutely on target with the theology behind the GAFCON movement.
Well, there's a video on YouTube of him giving a speech at Trinity Chatham, where he speaks of, you guys in England, you think you got it good, but there's spiritual depravity in what you're doing. I can talk about the poverty of Africa, but let's talk about the poverty of England.
I really encourage people who, if they have questions about Jackson, to look up Trinity Cheltenham in England.
Actually, I'll provide a link to the video right here in the show notes. So when you're done watching this, don't stop now. When you're done watching, watch the video of his talk.
Now, this is Cheltenham, not in New Jersey, but in England, Gloucestershire, I think it is, or someplace out there. And if you listen, he speaks articulate English. He's a very big man. He has a very magnetic presence. He reminds me of Henry Arambi in some ways, except he's bigger.
Wow. And he's NFL big.
NFL big.
Yes.
He's married. He has 6 children plus 2 adopted children. His wife's named Esther. He is a dynamic, interesting fellow, but he's also a believer. He takes this stuff seriously. And in this 40-odd minute video, if you get past the presentation of what's going on in his diocese in Kenya, which is what bishops do when they travel, they raise money, he then gets into his theology. And one of the things he says is, we have problems in Africa, and there are problems in Iraq and Syria when he asks the question why. But you people here in the West have problems that are even worse because you think you know it all. Mm-hmm. And in fact, you know so much that you no longer know God. You trust in your own righteousness. You trust in your own intellect. You no longer put your first trust in God. So what's happening? Here's a guy who fully supports the UN initiatives on mosquito nets and global warming and this and that, but he first and foremost begins from Christianity. There's a problem in Anglicanism of some people who basically make the church interchangeable with the UN or with the poverty groups. His point is that all of these good works mean nothing. All of your knowledge means nothing if you do not have a foundation in Jesus Christ, and the church in the West must repent and reform. Now, I don't know about you, but this is what I think is music to the GAFCON ears.
Yeah, I think it's based just on him being from a 2% tribe means they didn't go tribal, and I think they really picked the best man for the job. I don't want to do the wait and see attitude. We proclaim him the next primate for GAFCON. Good job. There's other news out there as well. The Methodists met. Where did they meet?
Portland, Oregon. Portland,
Oregon, a conservative city if you've ever heard of one. and had their general convention. One of the items on the docket was two of the items. First is their relationship with the abortion industry, and second was can their clergy have gay marriages, be married to same-sex people, and they're kind of Episcopalian. Methodism is a cousin to the Episcopal Church. Cousin may not be
I would
good.
say an illegitimate child.
Illegitimate child. I know a certain doctor who's going to call you up, and illegitimate child through Wesley, and so in as such, you can't be surprised if they go liberal. The Episcopal Church went liberal. Methodism sooner or later is going to go liberal because
And Methodism in England is kooky liberal. I mean, Methodism
extremely,
is
yes, yeah,
not so liberal.
not so liberal. And so when they were having their meeting and they're going to discuss their issues, I clearly thought they were going to continue to support the abortion industry and that they were going to clearly allow their clergy to become married in same-sex marriages. I was delightfully wrong, but not for the reasons you think. One of the things about the Methodist Church here in America is it incorporates the African churches that they planted many years ago. And that is a foundation cornerstone that's keeping them from going kooky liberal like England, George.
Yes, the African and overseas Methodists overwhelmingly repudiated the push towards gay marriages, and so the American Methodist conferences, who come to this general council meeting, they supported it, and the bishops decided we're just going to take everything off the table because we have the potential here for a split along racial lines, along American, non-American lines. So they've decided to punt the ball down the field and wait till the next general council to decide this issue. So the big push that the gay lobby wanted to have their book of order changed to allow gay clergy, to allow this and that and the other, didn't happen. And right now the votes are not there for it to happen. So the liberals are basically trying to figure out a way to sort of manipulate the system, either by creating facts on the ground, which you already see. There are gay clergy who are marrying gay couples, and their conferences, the equivalent of a diocese, refuse to do anything about it, to punish them. So they're going to create facts on the ground, just like the Episcopal Church gay movement did. Mm-hmm. But because of the presence of the African vote and the non-American vote, it's difficult to get this through their change into their book of order. But they did something that even the American church backed, which was pull out their support for the abortion industry.
What is happening, George? When I was a youngster, some 20 or 30 years ago, abortion was the default industry of the Episcopal Church. We support it. We need to be sure that women always have that right protected, that if, at any point during a woman's career she needs to abort a fetus, an unborn child, she has that right, and the church is here to support her. And if I'm not remembering this correctly, is not the leader of this abortion industry an Episcopalian?
Well, one of the past leaders was Catherine Ragsdale,
right,
who was the dean of Episcopal Divinity School, who famously said at an Alabama rally that abortion is a sacrament. So there is a...
I agree with her. That is the sacrament of the feminist movement.
Well, there's a kooky, nutso, rather creepy element. You think Planned Parenthood is bad. Yeah. The Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice, which is this lobbying group in Washington, is really, really creepy. It's the death industry. It's abortion until the very last second for any reason, no matter what.
It's
if you wanted a boy and you're having a girl, you can abort it. If you want to use abortion as a form of birth control, you can do it. If it's just inconvenient and you don't feel like it, you can do it. It's evil. And the people involved in it are really, really creepy. I'm sorry, there's an ick factor here.
There's a demonic factor, but yes, it's not just misinformed.
The Methodist General Council in the past and the Methodist Women's Group had joined this coalition in the past, Well, the General Council voted to sever all ties with it. And that is a tremendous victory for the pro-life movement in the Methodist Church. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, in fact, we're finding that abortion is less of a generational gender issue. You know, the kids nowadays, the millennials, just aren't into it like the kids of the '70s. So time is helping change something that is just one day. I hope that America can get on its knees and repent from that.
Well, abortion, as you say, Kevin, it's no longer, it's yesterday's defeated issue. It's, as the levels like to use the phrase, the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
Abortion's the wrong side of history. It's yesterday's issue that, Rowan Williams, for instance, has been an ardent opponent of abortion. He's written several strong things on this issue. In other words, it's no longer the default position of the left by any means in the Anglican world. It's the default position of the angry, late middle-aged feminist.
The 15 olders, yes, yeah. So
But it's not it's lost the moral and intellectual high ground a long time ago.
On to Norway. We're going to talk about the Lutherans. We don't talk about Lutherans much, but my home country, my motherland, is Norway. The Coulsons come from, and the Wilsons. My grandma's side of the family comes right from Oslo, and so when something happens over there, I like to bring it to light. The Lutherans, who run the Church of Norway, have had their council meeting, and they decide they're going to vote on gay marriage as well. And surprise, surprise, one of the more liberal part of our church decided, hey, we're for this. There's a picture of them all raising their hands saying, yes, we want gay marriage in the Lutheran Church in Norway.
Well, the Lutherans in Norway are basically catching up to the Lutherans in Sweden, who... Now, we have to say that these are former state churches that are all but moribund. In other words, you get 2% attendance of their members on a Sunday. They make the Episcopal Church look dynamic and alive and healthy and growing.
They do. It's amazing.
And they've long been creatures of the establishment. And the establishment in Norway introduced same-sex marriage 10, 15 years ago. And the government every so often has been saying, why aren't you people coming up with marriage liturgies so that we can have gay couples get married in church? Now, there is a faithful remnant in all of these Scandinavian churches. A mutual friend of ours who recently passed away, Arnie Felstedt, who just died. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know. Arnie, yep.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
If I look blank, it's because the pollen count here in Connecticut is completely off the scales. And so my head is full of something we call mucus. My throat is, my stomach is, and I have no energy whatsoever. So I may not be as palatable and funny as normal. And yes.
Well, in talking to Arnie before his death on this point, he said, well, George, the media and the government are so relentlessly, and the culture is so relentlessly pro-gay, it's just drummed into everybody's head in school, on the TV. And so it's very hard for nominal Christians to fight against this culture. And if you're someone who really stands up for Jesus, you're looked like you're a loon. And so they've been behind the eight ball for a long time, and finally the church's bishops have gotten around to say, okay, we'll allow you to begin the process to come up with liturgies for blessing same-sex marriages. But we're not going to force anybody to do it yet.
Yet, of course not. Hey, I'll be a fool for Christ any day. All right, that's today's program. I'm Kevin Coulson.
And I'm George Conger, and you've been watching episode 230 of Anglican Unscripted.
We should get Afrin nasal spray to do advertising here right now.